At the beginning of time, before men rose upon the earth, the world was ruled by divine forces, and among them, the Titans stood out. These immortal beings shaped the cosmos with their own hands, sculpting mountains, oceans, and skies. Zeus, the most powerful of the gods, had led a rebellion against the Titans themselves, defeating them and establishing their sovereignty over the world. But among the defeated, there was a Titan who did not accept Zeus's orders, nor the domination that the new king of Olympus imposed on mortals. This Titan was Prometheus. Prometheus, whose name means "he who foresees," had a vision that few understood. He believed in the potential of men, the fragile flesh and blood creatures that crawled on the cold earth, trapped in darkness. Zeus in turn saw humans as only pawns, mere objects to be controlled. For the god of gods, mortals should remain subjugated, far from the flames of power and knowledge. Without fire, humanity was destined to live in ignorance. Without understanding the secrets of life, with no hope of rising beyond its misery. While the gods feasted on Olympus, oblivious to human suffering, Prometheus felt a growing restlessness in his chest. He looked at mortals with a pious eye and saw in them the spark of something greater, something that the gods ignored, the ability to create, to transform, to challenge. It was this spark that he wanted to ignite, even if it cost him his own freedom. One night, while the stars shone indifferently in the sky, Prometheus descended from the heights to the earth. In his hands, he carried the most precious gift that the gods had kept secret: fire. This sacred flame was not just heat and light. It represented knowledge, the ability to forge tools, to build civilizations, to defy fate. By delivering fire to humans, Prometheus not only gave them survival in a cruel world, but also the power to create their own destiny. For the first time, humanity has found itself capable of shaping its future, of building its own stories. The flame that burned in the fires was the symbol of resistance, of the unbreakable will to live, grow, and challenge. Zeus, however, did not take long to realize Prometheus's act of betrayal. The fire, which he had kept away from mortals, now shone in every human village, warming bodies and minds, illuminating the darkness that once reigned. The wrath of the king of the gods was immediate and overwhelming. To him, Prometheus' disobedience was not only a challenge, but a direct affront to his divine authority. Olympus trembled as a furious Zeus summoned the other gods. "Prometheus has betrayed our trust," the god of thunder declared, his words echoing like storms through the heavens. "He has delivered to mortals what they should never possess. The punishment will be severe and eternal." Determined to make an example of Prometheus, Zeus ordered the Titan to be captured and chained to the highest mountain on earth, the Caucasus. There, on a desolate rock, where the biting winds blew unceasingly, Prometheus would be condemned to perpetual torture. Every day an eagle, the sacred bird of Zeus, would descend from the sky to devour the liver of Prometheus. And, being an immortal, his body would regenerate each night, only to suffer the same agony the next day. With each cry of pain that Prometheus let out, the echo was heard by the gods and mortals. The eagle dipped on him, its sharp talons tearing through his flesh, and each time, the Titan endured the torment with unbreakable determination. He knew that despite his suffering, his sacrifice would not be in vain. Humanity flourished, and that was its victory. With the gift of fire, humanity began to transform. The isolated villages became cities. Simple tools evolved into weapons, machines, and inventions. Humans, who had once crawled in the dust, now walked upright, confident in their ability to dominate the world around them. They built temples, erected statues, created works of art that captured the beauty and tragedy of life. Civilization was being born, and in every flame lit, Prometheus lived. However, humans, now aware of their power, also began to question themselves about the gods who ruled them. If a Titan had dared to challenge them, why should mortals fear them? Stories about Prometheus' rebellion spread like wildfire, inspiring movements, revolts, and questioning. He had become a symbol of resistance, the defender of freedom against the tyranny of the gods. But the flame of revolution also brought dangers. With the fire of knowledge came the desire for power. Mortal kings began to wage wars in the name of their gods and their own ambition. Cities, once symbols of progress, have been transformed into battlefields. Prometheus, trapped in his rock, watched everything with sadness. He had given humanity the power to create, but also the power to destroy. The years passed and Prometheus' suffering continued. Even in the midst of his unending grief, he never regretted his choice. He knew that knowledge was a gift worth any sacrifice, even if humanity was still learning to deal with its consequences. But his redemption was drawing near. Heracles, the hero demigod, son of Zeus, was on one of his famous journeys when he arrived at Mount Caucasus. He heard the screams of Prometheus, and when he saw the chained Titan, he felt a deep compassion. Heracles knew that Prometheus had suffered enough, that his punishment was too cruel for someone who only wished to help humanity. With his legendary strength, Heracles climbed the mountain, braving the fierce winds and the killer eagle. With a single blow of his sword, he killed the bird, freeing Prometheus from his eternal torment. The chains that held the Titan bound broke, and for the first time in millennia, Prometheus felt the relief of freedom. Zeus, watching from Olympus, allowed the deliverance. His pride was still immense, but he recognized Heracles' courage and strength. Furthermore, Zeus knew that despite his initial wrath, humanity had become stronger and more resilient thanks to Prometheus' gift. The world had changed, and there was no turning back. Prometheus, now free, did not return to Olympus. He chose to remain among mortals, closely observing the impact of their actions. The Titan has become a legend, a revered and feared figure, but also a symbol of the struggle for freedom and knowledge. He had defied the gods not for power or glory, but because he believed that knowledge was everyone's right, even if it meant defying fate. Over the centuries, the story of Prometheus has continued to inspire those who sought to challenge authority, question power, and fight for freedom. He was the rebel Titan, the defender of mortals, the bearer of the sacred fire. And in every flame lit in a laboratory, in every word written in a book, in every idea that challenged the status quo, the spirit of Prometheus lived, shining like the eternal flame of rebellion. After the liberation of Prometheus by Heracles, the Titan chose a path that few of his kind would understand. He walked among humans, without the grandeur of a god, without the divine aura that would distance him from mortals. With a steady, silent gaze, he wandered through the cities, watching the progress and conflicts that arose. He had planted a seed of transformation, but he knew that the future of humans was still far from defined. In this period, known as the Age of Heroes, humanity began to shape itself through its own deeds. Demigods such as Heracles, Perseus, and Theseus became central figures in the stories of men, blending between gods and mortals, facing mythological creatures and impossible challenges. Each of them carried within themselves the spark of fire given by Prometheus, the flame of ambition, courage, and the search for knowledge. But as Prometheus knew all too well, with great power came great dangers. These heroes, glorious as they were, also brought destruction in their wake. Wars between mortal city-states intensified, and the gods watched closely, intervening only when their interests were at stake. Zeus, even if he allowed Prometheus freedom, could not ignore the growing insubordination of mortals. They, like Prometheus before them, began to defy the will of the gods. Prometheus, now free, saw how heroes, even with their great deeds, were lost in ambition and power. He knew that the fire he had delivered to humanity was both a blessing and a curse, and that his true purpose was not just to create, but to learn how to balance creation and destruction. Heroes, with their swords and glorious deeds, often forgot this balance. They became symbols of strength, but not of wisdom. Prometheus continued to wander the earth, now in search of a new purpose. He knew that his mission was not finished. The fire he had given to mankind was more than just a literal flame. It was the ability to understand the secrets of the universe. But without direction, mortals would use this knowledge in a chaotic way, leading the world into more wars and disorder. It was during these pilgrimages that Prometheus encountered philosophers and thinkers. Men and women who, unlike warriors and heroes, sought to understand nature, life, and the cosmos. They met in squares and libraries discussing the stars, the human soul, and the mysteries of the world. Prometheus saw in them the spark of what he had always believed to be the true power of humans: knowledge. He approached these thinkers in secret, sometimes disguised as an old traveler, sometimes as a curious young wanderer. He did not lead them, but guided them with questions. "What is truth?" asked Prometheus, or "What does it mean to be free?" These questions echoed in the thoughts of philosophers, leading them to seek answers that went beyond the mundane, beyond what the gods allowed. Thus Prometheus lit a new flame, no longer that of the fire that warms, but that of the intellect that which illuminates minds. From these encounters, the first schools of thought emerged, and humans began to develop philosophy, science, and ethics. They no longer relied solely on brute force or divine favors, but now followed a path toward understanding the cosmos itself. As humans evolved intellectually, the tension between them and the gods of Olympus grew. Zeus, realizing that humanity was moving away from its dependence on the gods, began to feel the same discomfort he had when Prometheus stole the fire. He could not control the thoughts of mortals. He could not prevent them from questioning his authority. "Humans are forgetting about us," Zeus told his advisors, looking down at Earth with suspicion. "They built cities and became powerful with the fire that Prometheus gave them. Now they dare to philosophize about our existence and our laws." The other gods were divided. Some, like Athena, goddess of wisdom, admired human progress and saw in it a reflection of their own essence. To Athena, the intellectual advancement of mortals was a tribute to her wisdom. Others, such as Ares, the god of war, saw in the rebellion of mortals a threat. He longed for more conflicts, for more wars that could restore the power of the gods over humans. There were many discussions on Olympus about what to do. Some advocated the total destruction of mankind, a new flood that would erase all the progress they had made. But Athena, along with Prometheus, who was now watching from a distance, knew that this was not the solution. The real revolution was in accepting that humans had the right to question, to make mistakes, and to learn. However, Zeus's anger was relentless. He decreed that new challenges would be placed before humanity. The tragedies intensified. The most prosperous cities were hit by plagues, crops failed, and natural disasters devastated villages and ports. But despite everything, humans persisted. They had learned from Prometheus that even in the darkest hours, there was one flame that could not be extinguished: hope. Over time, mortals began to realize that their struggle was not only against other men, but against the very gods who ruled them. The revolt grew not in direct battles against Olympus, but in their ideas and their philosophies. Men like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle openly questioned myths, questioned the morality of the gods, and proposed that true virtue came from knowledge and self-control, not blind worship. Prometheus watched everything from afar, satisfied with the progress he had helped to initiate. He knew that humans would still face many challenges, both internal and external, but they were no longer the fragile creatures that crawled in the darkness, fearing the whims of the gods. They had risen up, forged their own path, and learned to forge their own light. However, humanity was still divided. While many followed the path of knowledge, others turned to war, power, and domination. And so, the great civilizations that arose with the fire of Prometheus also fell. Alexander the Great's empire collapsed. Rome, which had reached the pinnacle of glory, was consumed by its own ambition. The flame of civilization burned brightly, but was often extinguished by the lack of balance. Although free from his physical chains, Prometheus continued to carry the burden of his decision. He knew that his intervention had changed the course of human history forever, but he also knew that the knowledge he had offered was a dangerous gift. Humanity had risen, but also fallen countless times, a victim of its own excesses and selfishness. Prometheus, however, never lost hope in mortals. He believed that in time, they would learn to balance the power of the fire he had given them. He believed that in the midst of darkness, there would always be those who would seek the light, who would use knowledge for the greater good. As the centuries passed, Prometheus became a distant figure and almost forgotten among the gods, but never by humans. The fire he had bestowed upon mortals was not only the symbol of creation and technology, It also represented the eternal struggle between the limits imposed by the gods and humanity's relentless pursuit of freedom and wisdom. In civilizations that arose and disappeared, the flame of Prometheus was kept burning through knowledge, but also through suffering, as if humanity were eternally destined to learn through pain and error. With the rise and fall of empires such as the Egyptian, Babylonian, and Persian, Prometheus observed the pattern that repeated itself. The fire of civilization was lit with great promises of progress and freedom, but it was always threatened by corruption, ambition, and tyranny. Even the greatest leaders and philosophers at some point gave in to the temptations of power. However, there was something different about the human spirit, a resilience that Prometheus recognized as unique. Even when the flame almost went out, there was always a group, a city, or even an individual who rekindled the light. When darkness seemed imminent, humanity found the strength to get back on its feet. It was this spirit that kept Prometheus hopeful. He had given humans not only the literal fire, but also the inner spark of perseverance, the one that defied adversity. In modern times, Prometheus still walks unseen among mortals, watching as humanity uses the fire he has bestowed upon them. Now, fire has taken on more complex forms: electricity, fossil fuels, nuclear technology. Invention and discovery became the new forms of the old fire, and with it came new moral dilemmas. Prometheus, who had always believed in the potential of mortals, now saw humanity at a critical point. Fire, which had once brought life and progress, now threatened to consume the planet itself. Devastating wars such as the two world wars showed him that the power of fire, of science, technology, and ambition could be as destructive as it could be creative. Atomic bombs fell on cities, and Prometheus, invisible, felt the weight of his responsibility. He knew that he could not interfere directly in human affairs as he had done in the past. The choice was in the hands of the mortals themselves, and Prometheus watched them, waiting to see if what he had given them would be their salvation or ruin. Humanity, now armed with all the knowledge of the universe at their fingertips, faced the greatest crossroads in its history, using the power of fire to unite and heal the planet, or to divide and destroy it. The symbolism of Prometheus as the bearer of the flame has never been more relevant than in the modern world. It represents the human impulse to brave the unknown, to challenge established power, and to risk self-destruction in pursuit of knowledge and freedom. But like Prometheus, humanity carries the weight of its choices. For every technological advancement, there is a moral question. For every scientific discovery, there is a new responsibility. Prometheus, like a figure of silent wisdom, observes this struggle. He sees how humans deal with issues that transcend their time: artificial intelligence, space exploration, genetic modification. He sees the rise of new philosophies and movements that attempt to reconcile the desire for progress with the need to preserve what is essential for life. Even in the midst of the environmental, political, and social crises that haunt the planet, Prometheus sees a thread of hope. He knows that the power of fire can be tamed, that the same flame that forged weapons can also fuel inventions that will save lives. Humanity, for him, has always been an unfinished creation, full of potential, but also of failures. And it is exactly this imperfection that makes it so fascinating. In the end, Prometheus continues his silent vigil. He does not seek glory or worship. His days as a rebel titan are long gone. Now he is an observer of the eternal cycle of creation and destruction that moves humanity. In every laboratory, in every conference, in every moment of discovery, the spirit of Prometheus is present. He still carries with him the weight of the punishment he suffered for giving fire to mortals. But that burden has become part of his very nature. He knows that mortals will also carry their own burden through the centuries, the weight of knowledge and responsibility. Still, he keeps faith in those who, like him, dare to defy the established orders. For Prometheus, the true heroes are not those who wield swords or lead armies, but rather those who question, who learn, who seek to ignite a new flame of wisdom and understanding. His story as the eternal rebel will continue to be told as long as there are humans to remember him, and his flame, though invisible, will continue to burn in the hearts of every being who dreams of reaching for the stars. After millennia of silence and observation, Prometheus felt that his time among humans was nearing its end. The story, which he had helped shape, was now in his hands. He knew he couldn't guide their destiny forever, but he believed that the flame he'd given them would continue to glow, even when he was no longer there to watch it. One day, while walking through a dense forest, Prometheus came across a small campfire, around which a group of young people were discussing ideas that could change the world. They talked about science, about philosophy, about the importance of protecting the planet and working together to ensure a future for humanity. Prometheus smiled, recognizing in them the spark he had always believed existed in mortals. He approached the group and sat next to them, without anyone realizing his true identity. As he had done so many times in the past, he asked them questions. "What does it mean to be free?" he asked, knowing that the answer to that question would define the future of all humanity. The young people reflected for a while, and then one of them replied, "To be free is to have the knowledge to choose one's own path, but also the wisdom to know the consequences of each choice." Prometheus heard these words and knew that, at last, his mission was complete. The fire he had given to mortals so many ages ago had finally found its true heirs. They understood the power of knowledge, but also the weight of responsibility it brought. With this understanding, humanity could finally ascend to something greater, something that not even the gods had foreseen. Prometheus, the rebellious titan, lit the flame of knowledge in the hearts of mortals. He paid the price for his disobedience, but his sacrifice went beyond the punishments imposed by Zeus. He accepted suffering to ensure that humans had the power to shape their own destiny. Now, in the minds of thinkers and dreamers, in world-changing inventions and struggles for justice and freedom, the flame of Prometheus burns brighter than ever. His story, passed down from generation to generation, has become a symbol of resistance, courage, and hope. Prometheus, the bringer of fire, will live forever on those who dare to defy the forces that try to control human destiny. In the depths of space, as the stars shine silently and the planets revolve around their suns, humanity continues its journey. Prometheus, now a myth, a legend, observes from afar. He no longer interferes, but knows that what he started millennia ago, when he stole fire from the gods, is still unfolding. The flame he gave to mortals will never be extinguished. As long as there are those who dream, who challenge the impossible, who seek knowledge and truth, Prometheus will live. And so the cycle continues, with the flame of Prometheus lighting the way to an uncertain future, but full of possibilities.